Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
This year, thanks to the efforts of the Bad Gift Givers Anonymous Association for the Givers of Bad Gifts, better known as the BGGA, the ratio of bad gift giving has been drastically reduced since our last commercial. But there is still much work to be done, and we need your help. Ties and sweaters just won't do this year. Join the thousands, nay, hundreds of thousands of smart people who said enough is enough and went to Ocala Aviation, where they purchased the gift above all other gifts, the present that soars above all other presents, the one that makes your friends jealous that they didn't think of it first. That's right, I'm talking about a discovery flight from Ocala Aviation. Whatever bad gift you were thinking of, stop. We're here to help. Let us convert that bad idea into a great one. For only $99, you can give the gift of flight, a discovery flight from Ocala Aviation. Call today. It's not too late. 861-7484. That's 861-7484.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
Thank you so much for waiting. 6 minutes after 10 o'clock, and I have been looking forward to this interview for so long. The gentleman on the phone has written some books that will make you think, that is for sure. His name is Chuck L. Harris. He's a veteran of the U.S. Air Force, so our first thing is to thank him for his service, of course. He's an engineer who has overseen the construction of supertankers, pipelines, and power plants across America. Listen to the titles of his books. Proof of Atlantis, Records of the Past. That's all you need to know to pick up this book, right? To pick up a copy of this book. And then the other one that I have, there's probably more than these two, I don't know, we're going to find out in a second. Visions of Evil, The White House Conspiracy. Wow!
Gosh,
wow! I believe that's the newer of the two, and I just chatted with him very briefly. We've had a couple of technical things here, so I was a little bit distracted. I didn't get a chance to really introduce myself, but let's do that right now on the air. Chuck Harris, good morning. I'm looking forward to chatting with you. Good morning, sir.
Top of the morning to you guys.
Where are you?
I'm sitting on top of a mountaintop in Ohio right now.
A mountaintop. And how's the weather in that mountaintop?
Well, it's 33 degrees and trying to rain.
Oh, okay. So is Proof of Atlantis and Visions of Evil, are those two books fiction?
Yes.
Okay. But
the only thing it's not fiction is Proof of Atlantis. The first 2 or 3 chapters is it's set in the foothills of the Himalayas. And all the problems that construction manager had on that job, I had on that job. And then it spins off into fiction.
And why did you do it that way? Why did you take us down the road that was true and then take us somewhere else?
Well, I wanted to write about the records of Atlantis, and I set it there in the foothills of the Himalayas, and I was able to describe these villages that I went through daily that hadn't changed in 500 or 600 years. I mean, just the history and the culture, the day-to-day things that I saw that very few people got to see. And so I was able to include that, work that into the story.
Okay. Do you actually live in Texas?
Yes.
But why are you in Ohio?
I'm building a project up here.
What kind of project?
It's a large gas compressor station.
Oh, okay. Wow. And you and who else? I mean, are you like the leader of a team?
Right. I'm head up the owners' reps. The owners of this hired me and my people to come in and see that it's built the way they want it to be built.
Oh, okay. So building is the common denominator. That sounds like, or construction. It's the common denominator between your books and your construction work, obviously, right?
There's a lot of similarities. There's a blueprint for building a house or whatever. There's also a blueprint for putting a story together, and it doesn't make any difference if you're writing Cinderella or Star Wars. The blueprint is exactly the same.
So is that your method of writing? Is you first outline it, or give a, like, do you know before you start writing the actual book what the ending is going to be, or does it sometimes change?
Well, when you and you probably heard other writers say this, once you establish the characters, they take on a life of their own.
Yeah.
You put them in a problem, and they'll tell you how to get out of it.
But does that happen in construction? Like if you're building a bridge, you can't improvise. I mean, once it's designed, you got to follow that design, right?
Absolutely. And it's the same way with stories. And it's easier to describe if you're describing a screenplay, because that's how I started out, than a novel. A novel's a little more loosey-goosey, but a screenplay, you can take a stopwatch and go into a movie, and you can tell when certain things are going to happen at certain points in that picture. You don't know what they're going to be, but you know the turning points, and it's a blueprint, and that's what you follow.
Do you know, I want to ask you a question, and I've never asked an author this question before, but you just, for some reason, made me think of it. When an artist does a portrait, and I guess portrait is probably most often as opposed to landscapes, the artist will either have a mirror at some point so he or she can look at the painting from a distance, or they'll just simply step back and look at it from a distance, because from a distance they get a different idea of what it looks like than up close. I know sometimes musicians, when they write music, they will often put it aside and not listen to it for a week, and then sort of forget what they wrote, and then listen to it again and see if they like it a week later after they forgot what it sounds like, you know, when it's still a new. Do you do that with books? I mean, do you step back somehow? How do you do that?
I do exactly the same thing. When I start writing on the first draft, I just write. I mean, whatever comes out is what I put down. Then I take a few days off and go fishing or whatever, and then I come back and reread that, and now you're reading it through somebody else's eyes, and you can pick out the flaws, and you can find the nuggets that you want to keep.
Are you attempting to tell us a story in addition to making a point? For example, the Visions of Evil, the subtitle says The White House Conspiracy. Is there a political message that you're trying to get out there?
Not really. It was just in the story, a young man finds some records that Einstein had theorized, but the technology was not there in his day for it to be developed, and he develops it. And in doing so, he runs into conflict with the White House.
And your concept is really, really incredible, because books are going to be here for generations to come. The original person who wrote it will not be here. And it has to be solid like buildings for it to be appreciated and withstand time.
Well, that was one of the things that I wanted to do, was leave something for my grandchildren. You know, I don't have the money to live large parcels of land or whatever, but I could leave a written word. Now, Visions of Evil is set on a slave plantation in West Columbia, Texas, that I lived on when I was a kid. It had been a slave plantation, and the old slave cemetery and all of that that's spoken of in the novel is there, and it's, if you like driving Miss Daisy, you would enjoy that Visions of Evil, because it's about a black man and a white woman that played together in their single-digit years and were separated when they were 6 and lived on the fringes of one another's life all their life, and they come back together in their late 60s to prove that her grandson was murdered. He did not commit suicide.
Oh, wow. And in writing the books with that in mind, I mean, did you discover things that you didn't expect to discover?
You know, you things come to you that you have no idea where they come from. It's like, I'm not smart enough to think of this. It's like somebody's, there's another force out there somewhere that's sticking this in my brain, because I'm not smart enough to think of it.
We maybe think that, but I bet you are. All right, let's take a little break. We'll come back. I want to make sure that we're fair to the two books, but this is fascinating stuff. Chuck L. Harris is our guest. The two books that we've been kind of talking about, although not enough to really understand what the books are about, so we'll do that in a better way when we come back. Proof of Atlantis, Records of the Past, and Visions of Evil, The White House Conspiracy, both of which are fiction, but they start out as factual, and they have some factual basis, which is interesting. We'll take and is it on a mountain in Ohio?
Yeah, isn't that
I don't know any mountains in Ohio.
No.
All right, we'll be right back. Hold on.
Hey Ocala, this is Kelly Hart, Executive Editor of Ocala Magazine. Did you know last year Ocala Magazine won more awards in excellence than any other publication in Florida? And this year, Ocala Magazine was named Best Consumer Magazine in the state. Now you can join me every Friday at 10 a.m. on Ocala Magazine Radio, where we bring the pages of Ocala Magazine to life, right here on The Source. Ocala Magazine thanks you for making us number one. And remember, there is only one Ocala Magazine.
Hi, this is Robin. May God's happiness, love, and joy be with you and yours this holiday season. Merry Christmas.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Though our day began with some fog, it'll be warm today with variable cloudiness, high 77 to 81. Mostly cloudy tonight with a shower late, low 66 to 70. For tomorrow, Christmas Eve, cloudy, breezy, warm, and humid with a couple of showers and thunderstorms, mainly in the afternoon, the high 78 to 82. For Thursday, Christmas Day, sunshine returns, cooler and less humid, the high 66 to 70. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Legally Yours, brought to you by Fuller & Fuller Attorneys at Law. On the air every Wednesday morning at 10:30 a.m. with John Fuller, a board-certified civil trial lawyer for over 25 years. John welcomes your questions, from business to complex family matters to legal disputes. So tune in every Wednesday morning at 10:30 a.m. for Legally Yours with John Fuller, right here on WOCA 1370 AM and 96.3 FM, The Source.
Gene Powell Pasture Mowing. Our tractor services include bush hog, disking, front end loader, box blade, and stump grinding. We also have zero-turn mowers for the smaller paddocks, aisleways, fence rows, and lawn care. Fence row spraying is also available for weed control. We are licensed and insured. Gene Powell Pasture Mowing, 352-629-2440, or online at powellgene, Gene, at yahoo.com. Gene Powell Pasture Mowing.
All right, 19 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Tuesday morning. Hopefully you're doing well. Chuck Harris is on the phone. There's a couple of books that he's written called Proof of Atlantis, Records of the Past, and Visions of Evil, The White House Conspiracy. Chuck, I want to tell you something. With your construction background, I have so many questions for you that I want to be sure I'm fair to the books, but if you don't mind, I'd like to pick your brain about construction a little bit.
No problem.
All right. Because of your interest in construction and your interest in the world, especially world history, do you have any theories about the mysteries, like the pyramids? I mean, do you have any theories about how that was built? Do you differ from the conclusion that they had like 1 million slaves and they took 1,000 years or whatever they say?
You know, I don't know. There's so many different theories on that, and I think there's stories yet to be told as to how that really happened. We just haven't figured it all out yet. I think there's, you know, when they find shipwrecks that were wrecked in the 1400s and they have computers on them, it's like, where'd this stuff come from?
Yeah. Have you ever seen this building in South Florida that this guy built? Oh gosh, I wish I could remember the guy's name. And they say he was able to levitate, which is a weird thing to say.
He built them out of coral, and I haven't read anything about that in a number of years, but I did read several books about it back when. Is that the one you referred to?
I think so. Yes, sir. I think so. But I've never understood, because I would think that somebody like yourself, who has an understanding of the physics of construction, you would probably see right through any kind of mysterious, like if we put a mystery behind something, like somebody put a video on YouTube that showed, well, here's how they did it. They just set it on a dowel, and the dowel was able to make them roll a large rock.
Mm-hmm.
Like something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what they said.
So
I don't know. It fascinates me. The whole concept of what that man did was unbelievable.
All right, let's talk about Atlantis. Do you think there's evidence of Atlantis under the Caribbean Ocean?
I do. I think that. I think that's. People ask me when I was writing that how much research I'd done on it, and I didn't do very much because I had been researching it for 30 years and didn't realize it.
Yeah.
You know, I had read everything that I could about Atlantis, and including Edgar Casey and Ruth Montgomery and these people that were psychics on the subject.
Yeah. I sort of did the same thing. So one of the things I wondered, and maybe you've wondered it too, in the Bible when it refers to the flood, do you think that might have been what happened to Atlantis?
Very likely, but you know, you can study cultures from all over the world, and all of them have a flood in their history that they speak of. In China and South America, they've all had floods, and they don't know if it's the same flood or what. Maybe only a portion of the earth flooded at a time. You know,
it is something I guess we can only wonder about.
What's really fascinating about Atlantis and the history of it, the structures were built so well that once the city went underneath, the structures are still intact, but now structures that are built today, if there's any kind of, they seem to be more susceptible to corrosion if something like that might happen. How do you think that they got their materials all those years ago to make them last that long?
I have no earthly idea. You know, there was so much about Atlantis that was so advanced. Their society was supposed to be so advanced that they were more advanced than what we are in some areas. So.
So when you were younger, I'm shifting gears now, going over to Visions of Evil. To be fair to that book, now this is the newer of the two books, right? Visions of Evil.
Yes.
And did you say this goes back to your childhood?
Yes, I lived on that slave plantation when I was a child. What had been a slave plantation, and they raised sugar cane there on it, and it's about 55 miles or something like that out of Houston. And we found there was ruins all over that property that no one knew was there until they started clearing wood, the timber out, and they found all kinds of ruins back up in these woods that trees have grown up around. And no one had ever seen them in modern time.
Wow. And you somehow parlayed that into the story. For the reader who wants to know about buying the book, give us like a thumbnail sketch of the story, like the movie trailer version, if you could.
Well, it's like I say, it was about a black man and a white woman that lived on this slave plantation as children till they were about 6 years old, and then they were separated and lived on the fringes of one another's life. And they come back together in their late 60s to prove that her grandson was murdered and did not commit suicide.
Yeah.
And the backstory is their families had lived together for generations, and her family once owned his family. And when slaves were freed, they stayed on and worked for her grandparents.
Yeah, which probably is a lot of stories similar to that part of it, anyway.
So, and when you're reading that, think of Morgan Freeman, Meryl Streep, and Halle Berry.
Because they're gonna do the movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of spiritualness in your
Yes.
two books?
I do. In myself, I'm more spiritual than religious. But yes, I do include that in my writings whenever I can. I don't force it. It has to go bring something to the story, or I don't put it in there.
Well, thank you for being on the air with us today. This has been an interesting conversation, but I don't feel like it was long enough. Give us some information so we can buy the book. So I went to the website visionsofevil.net, so I know how to find that book. Or do you have a website, or are your books on Amazon?
They're on Amazon. You can go on Amazon and you can order them or get Kindle off of there.
And do you enjoy being part of a writers group? Do you think that's beneficial for up-and-coming writers?
Absolutely. I got started with the California Writers Club. That's the largest writing group in the United States, and it was formed by Jack London and 5 or 6 other drunks about 112 years ago in Berkeley. And I went to them looking for a ghostwriter, and a woman named Ruth Theotis chewed my butt out like a stepchild and says, "Nobody knows it better than you. Write it yourself." And that got me started, and then I started writing screenplays. I was going to write the great movie. I wrote 9 of them. Maggie Abbott, that polished Dancing with the Wolves, polished them for me, and I never could get a rude secretary to talk to me. And my children tell me not to worry about selling them because they'll be worth more after I die.
Oh, no.
Oh, gosh.
Well, what is the name of the mountain you're on?
It's not really a mountain. It's just a high hill out here in
Okay.
Ohio.
Okay. I was looking up mountains in Ohio while you were talking. I was trying to figure out what mountain it might be. Well, thank you for being on with us. Do you celebrate Christmas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Well, then, Merry Christmas, Chuck. Thank you for being on the air with us today. Good luck with the books, and you are welcome. If you're ever in Florida, come and visit us in the studio.
I would enjoy that. You got coffee?
We have coffee.
Oh, yes, we do.
And right now we have chocolate as well.
That's right.
Oh, Lord.
And hot chocolate and candy canes.
And I think we have some tuna casserole, too.
Yep. And Starbucks.
You guys have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Chuck Harris, thank you. The books, again, Proof of Atlantis, Records of the Past, and Visions of Evil, The White House Conspiracy. Get them on Amazon. And the website I did go to is visionsofevil.net. It has a lot of information about Chuck and about the book. Thank you again, Chuck. Have a great Christmas and New Year's. We'll take a little break, and we will be right back.
This is James Snyder inviting you to join me each Sunday morning at 9:30 for Sunday Joy, right here on WOCA 1370.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
WWWWOCA,
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat.